Welcome back, everybody, to a new episode of Making Comic Creators Cry. Today, we're making this man right here, Daniel Gorny. Before we get for anybody who's new to this show, what we do here is simple. It's in the name. We got Adam Watson over here. We got Adam Watson. The best way I can describe Adam Watson is he's a hard man. You know what I'm saying? He's a hard man. Hard man too.
Is this like Shawshank?
Why don't you say what I do? Your introductions are the worst.
If he's making comics creators cry and it's not me, I'm comfortable with it.
That's right. He's also in comics. He's doing this for decades now, but he's a distributor mainly now, but also a publisher, writer, creator.
No, I'm both a publisher and distributor equally. I'm not mainly.
And also, he's a seller. He's also a seller. I think I once asked him for a number of books he sold, and he put it, I think it was over 100K books. It could have been 1 million. I don't remember exactly.
Wait, last I heard it was like 500,000. What's going on?
That's what it was. Yeah, it was like 500,000. I keep forgetting the exact number.
I think I said the number was 250,000. About 250,000.
That is one, 250,000.
You can't trust his math or his memory.
It was the average. You were saying half. I said 100.
Oh yeah, see, there you go.
Because
take
in your
the higher
head,
number, Adam.
100,000 and 500,000 is 250,000. There's that math problem I'm talking about.
We will get up there. We'll get up to 500,000 over the next 2 years. I have no doubt. This man has some crazy ideas for bringing comics to the mainstream. Isn't that right, Adam? Isn't that right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's all under strict heavy IP, I believe, under very heavy NDAs that we cannot discuss. But we got Kayla down here. Kayla is an artist.
Yeah.
An artist in all aspects of art, but also mainly comics. She's now delving into about, I think, 2 years now you've been into comics, Kayla?
2 years. Yeah, 2 years in comics now.
But she grew up reading them and liking them. Isn't that right, Kayla?
No. No, it's not. It's not right. You have the wrong Kayla.
No worries. But you do have a lot of tattoos, so that makes up for it.
Yes, I did spend a lot of time in the tattoo industry.
That is how Adam and Kayla got to become friends, because they're very heavily
Because all tattooed people, we all know each other.
Because don't you love it when people with tattoos come up to show you their tattoos?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
The 1993 gecko, and they're like,
oh my
look
God,
at my tat.
yes.
It's like the really faded gecko.
Oh,
That
I do kind of love it.
Cheek, and you know it.
Of course he does. Of course he does. And he got it on spring break when he was rushing his frat house. I know it.
And we have our guest here, but Danny, before I can even introduce you, I need you to look into the camera and say the words "I volunteer as tribute." So we're not legally minded, you know what I'm saying? We're all clear of all.
So this is consensual. We are all
exactly
over 18.
Say that again, Danny, just so we can get over. I didn't know if
you got it recorded now already.
I don't want to say we got it. I want to say we got it for everybody watching, just so we're all clear what's happening here. But yeah, and Danny is a comic book writer, creator, and also script supervisor. He's on set, and he's also he's an international. Is that the best way to call you?
I'm domestic. You're international. You're foreign.
He is from. Can we tell people where you are, Danny?
Yeah, I'm in Toronto.
Toronto, Canada. I was just gonna say Canada, but you got really specific. I like that. Got some pride in you, Danny. But yeah, that's. You have a new book out. Do you want to tell us just a little bit about your book before we get started? Just give us like a log line.
Sure. Cygnus Imperium is a space opera in which 3 Star Trek characters land on a deserted planet, find a giant robot, and start a Star War with it.
And before we can even get started, me and Adam were going back and forth last night about what this reminded us of, and we could not agree. We could not agree. Isn't that right, Adam? We just could not come to a middle. So Danny, before we tell you what we thought of, what were your inspirations for coming up with this story?
So I did an interview with Pop Culture Junkies, two girls out of Arizona. We were talking about Star Wars, and they really sold me on The Mandalorian being Star Wars, but not bad. And I watched, and I was like, oh yeah, Star Wars had some fun things. And so sort of get into that and switch the point of view around as to who the protagonists are and what they want and what.
So only Star Wars, or can you throw in a few other?
Oh, there's a bunch of Dune in there, but not so much in the first issue.
Okay.
There's a very strange conversation I had about trying to do farm punk, which this isn't, but is the closest I got.
Okay.
Okay.
Broadly, the inspiration was an idle thought I had around the time that I had that other interview. I was like, I wonder what George Washington would have thought of the Donald Trump presidency.
Interesting.
So this is my answer to that question.
That's your answer, Cygnus Imperium. There we go. Well, you know what we do here. We're about to put on our hard hats. You know what I'm saying?
So first critique right out the gate. Okay. If I hadn't heard you pronounce this name, I would have just went around mispronouncing it forever.
That's between
how are you going to pronounce it?
Words, man. I mean, you also don't know how to pronounce the vowels in Arman's name.
You don't. So
that is true, but
when you look at it, it looks like I thought it was Cygnus, to be honest. Okay. But why did you go with a name that when people look at, they're not going to remember? Why did you do that?
Where I'm from, people can speak French, and that's a perfectly normal way.
Okay.
Wait, just
Latin for swan.
Danny, pronounce it for us again. Pronounce it for us. Say it again.
Cygnus.
Cygnus Imperium?
Yep.
Okay. And Adam thought it was Cygnus?
Okay.
What did you think it was, Arman?
More than anything, I just think it's a really forgettable name, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a little too complicated. It's too sci-fi out there, honestly. It's a little too...
There's a robot. It's pretty sci-fi.
But before we get into that, that was a good first critique, and maybe Kayla can.
That's actually a good note.
Tell us what she thought it was pronounced as. But actually, before we lose sight of what I, Adam, so me and Adam were saying, what does it remind us of? And then I immediately went to Transformers, all right? And then Adam was like, how did you get there? But then Adam said, what did you say? You said
Firefly, Voltron.
And then how did you get there, Adam? You know what I'm saying? So
Firefly, Voltron, and there was like one other. I don't remember what it was. I don't remember off the top of my head.
Firefly. I saw like a couple episodes of the new Voltron. I remember the old one, of course, like from way back, mostly as the toy commercial that it was. I don't see Transformers, but I do see the robot, so I can see.
I didn't see Transformers. Oh, well, Gundam. Gundam obviously was the other one.
Yeah, Gundams. Yeah.
All right. But Danny, now you know when some people ask you what are your references, you can say all of the ones we just said and be like, it was a mix of this, and even if it wasn't, people now know.
Someone's wearing, the white shirt. I'll drop the Gundam reference. It doesn't help when people are like into My Hero Academia. Those people don't like robot anime. I've seen my fair share of that. I'm old. I remember Eva.
Kayla, do you like this name? You were oddly quiet in the name.
I'm quiet because I thought it was pronounced Cygnus Imperium. but I also speak a couple languages, so maybe that's why I didn't think it was Cygnus. I thought it was Cygnus Imperium, and I like it. I thought it was super like classic sci-fi.
And then right off the, I guess it ties into my biggest critique. Not only the biggest critique, but one of my main critiques was that down here, like, isn't the main character Ravana, and then he's not on this cover.
He's not on the cover. That was on purpose. meant to be a reveal at the end of like as a writing exercise, which is sort of a lot of what I was caring about when I was initially writing this. I really liked the secret. Oh, Ravana is actually the hero turnaround at the end, and so I didn't want to put it on the cover. Like, and I don't have a lot of people who are going to be really direct, like surprised feedback about this. Most of them were like really, really happy to see that turn around at the end. And that turning into the cliffhanger.
Yeah, it's definitely an introduction to a main character that I haven't really seen before, because you definitely reveal him at the end, and then I was like, okay, then why did we, what was the whole, to get there? But yeah, that was definitely cool. But then I would have liked to kind of see him on the cover with his little, well, I guess the second
He's
issue.
on the variant cover, which you don't have in front of you.
I do not.
I don't know if I've seen the variant cover. Was that on the Kickstarter?
That was on the Kickstarter. Let's see if
I think it's too bad. I think Ravana has major like Gilf vibes. The whole time I was like, hello, Ravana.
No, you're welcome.
But yeah, and then I imagine the next issues are going to include him and his little robot. Not little, but we'll get into that. We'll get to that in a second.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want me to share my screen, I can share the cover.
Oh, I would want nothing more than to
share screen.
So we can tear that apart as well. Adam's ready for it.
Can I only share the whole screen? Is that
Adam's favorite thing is to get a split second, and then start destroying people. The improv. The improvs.
No, that's
you
cool.
asked for it, Arman.
I'm going to share the screen, and I can get. Here we go. I get the window.
Cool. I see it. Okay. We're getting.
I like this.
He's got his own section.
I like that a lot better.
Yeah, I do too.
So my biggest complaint about your main cover is it didn't sell me on anything. It didn't give me an idea of anything the book would contain, and it was just kind of there, really static. You know what I'm saying at all? Whereas with that one, that actually sells a lot more of the concept.
Right. Yeah, this to me seemed too generic, and then kind of the character designs wasn't too crazy or out there. That's why I think Ravana was cool.
The character designs and the planets in the background kind of showing that this isn't Earth. I would have gone away with the one that looks like a marble in front of the spaceship, though. That seems like a little bit bad placement with that particular planet because it seems like it's attached more to the plane in the background than what it does as a separate image is actually far off in the galaxy somewhere. But one of the things I thought was really confusing when I looked at the cover and then started reading the book isn't that their ship that's crashing from the sky?
It is.
Okay, so it's really confusing to me because I'm like, wait, was there like a separate ship? Are they going to shoot down the ship? Or is it just like bait and switch on the cover sort of thing,
Yeah, no, that was not specifically directed for the cover. I'm actually not great at directing covers.
Okay.
Generally, I ask the artist to do something, or if I'm doing variants, like, here's the book, make me a cover, pitch it to me.
Oh, I learned not to do that.
I've had really, really, really good luck with that, actually. That was the variant you just saw, too.
Oh, this one. Oh, that's what you're talking about, the variant. All right, but not this one.
Yeah, so,
well, that's a great point.
I get really
that's
close
something
to my
that
own work, and like the stuff I'm interested in is not usually the stuff that will actually help it sell.
This is knowing Danny. This is a major downfall to his business plan, and he's like, "I just want it to be weird. I don't really care if it makes money."
Oh boy, we've got to change that mindset.
I've got
firing you, Danny. But yeah,
there's a process. The actual books are good and engaging, which is what I'm really focused on right now. But those are really good notes on the cover. And
Kel, do you have any notes on the cover?
Yeah, I don't know if I've already had this conversation with you, Danny. I don't think I have, but I remember when I first saw this in the Kickstarter, and this cover drove me nuts because there's no real focal point to it. Like I'm constantly trying to figure out where my eyes need to be landing, and there's not a very good like visual rhythm to the whole piece. Like I wish if you were going to go with something like this, that those figures were either brought all the way up to the foreground and we kind of had a little bit more of like an epic perspective happening, or just something that was a little more dynamic. Everything's kind of the same size. There's nothing really that focal point other than the weird glowing planet that's like at the tip of the falling ship. It just doesn't seem very well thought out design wise.
Yeah, and again, and then I think Adam might have said it, but you know, it just like if I glance over at this cover, I would have just skipped over the entire comic because, you know, again, for me, it was really the character design. Like nothing really stood out in the cover. And I kind of broke down why. But then also, you know, just for me personally, like, you know, it just kind of like nothing like it really stood out or shocked me. And I was like, okay. But and also at the bottom, I don't know why, it just felt a little empty. I don't entirely know why it made me feel a little empty here. But maybe you could move the names down.
There is a lot of free space down at that bottom.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not very good use of the graphic design in total because you have your logo up here, which the logo looks nice, even though I don't like the title at all. But the logo does look nice. But the issue 1 above it, that's just kind of boring and just kind of there. And then the names, the way they're laid out, you could have played around a lot more with like the top to bottom dynamic.
Yeah.
And it would have made the flow a lot easier to read. I probably would have even brought the logo down a little bit more on the page because as it sits right now, like where your crop line is going to be, isn't going to be that far above where the circle in your logo is. So if you move that down even like a 1/2 of an inch, it would offset the whole entire cover a lot.
We've actually got a version that is cropped. Like that's visually cropped already.
No, that's fine. But, you know, it definitely cuts it like really close.
And
when
you printed it, how close did it bring it down to the issue part?
No, like so I have another 1/4 inch of art around all of this in the original art. So, I mean, do you want me to go get it?
Are you saying that you built in?
Prove it to us.
Is that what you're saying?
Sorry?
Are you saying that you built in like crop lines? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, like so. This is the art at original size, bled out, and then digitally cropped.
Okay.
We made a digital
but what I'm
copy
saying is that when you go to your printer and they do their trimming, that you might run into an issue where it trims right at the top of issue 1 because of where it's laid out. It would be more common with like offset printing than it would digital. If you're doing it digital, then they're hand trimming, they're going to avoid it. But if you ever go to do an offset run, then you're going to run into that issue because it's all by machine trimming. So just trying to save you a little bit of work in the future, having to redesign everything or having them show up janky, you know?
That is right. That's right. Also, maybe just bringing like even the logo just right all the way down here, just because again, I think we said there's a little bit of empty space, but you know, I don't know why I just like
he could, but
all the
then
way
it's
down.
not going to pop on the racks if he puts a logo down there.
Yeah,
it is possible. But
yeah,
it's like,
I was thinking about that during design, and that was my consideration.
So much. In fact,
I've been
empty space
experimenting with
is
logo placement for the variant covers. For this, I did this on issue 2 as well, which you don't have. I think Kayla's seen it.
I have, yeah.
So the variants like have the logo a little bit like placed more to blend with the composition and what the art's doing. Whereas the cover A's are just I'm sticking at the top for that. Got to get used to designing for the rack reason.
Yeah, issue 2 like definitely is a glow up design wise from this. If I'm like thinking back to the covers that I've seen, like the sneak peeks that I've seen of that, for sure.
If they don't get through issue 1, they won't get through issue 2.
I know.
So, you know, we'll throw out that comment because it doesn't even matter. No, I'm kidding. But we got a lot more to go. You know, how are you feeling, Danny?
We're 19 minutes into our half an hour, so let's bring you guys
He's like, bring it on. My guts are not on the desk yet.
I can do better. Sorry, guys.
All right, let's keep going. Let's keep going. Just making sure we're still on our Hunger Games grind over here. You got page 1. So for
Okay,
me,
stop right there for a second. Okay.
oh boy.
So I read this thinking this is information I'm going to need going into the story, right?
Yes.
But this seems to be a summary of the first 3 to 4 pages. So this seems a little weird to be there. And then the lettering for the credits and where it says Part 1 sabbatical at the top, that's just not a good font choice. Like that's hard to read. You don't want your name to be hard to read when people want to know who created this thing.
Who was the letterer, Danny?
I was the letterer.
Were you trying to hide it, Danny? Be honest here. Were you trying to hide it?
Was I trying to what?
Trying to hide it that you were the letterer?
No, I just don't like putting my name twice in the credits. It feels weird.
Oh, you could just put a writer /
I can
letterer.
agree with that.
You just, like,
but
slash
his
it.
lettering, your lettering is far better than Arman's. So
That is
Danny's pretty good. Danny did the lettering on our short that we put out around Christmas, and I thought it was pretty decent.
Well, there's some parts there that I'm going to pick apart too, just so you know. But, well, let's hear the thought on this one.
I agree with the font, though. That was something that I definitely noticed, like on this initial page, was the font choice was difficult for me. I understand the aesthetic, like decision making behind it, but as far as like practical use wise, it wasn't really doing it for me.
That was interesting. Adam said, like, I felt like I don't understand why the summary is, because it didn't lead up to it, right? I was thinking maybe like now, like going back, like after people read it, if they're just looking at, maybe they just get a quick summary before they jump into issue 2. Like, what was the actual thought process behind including this?
Not anywhere near as deep as you were going for. I wanted sort of a summary of the world building and a bit of like some equivalent of back of book copy, which I don't like putting on the back of floppies for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
So just, hey, what's going on? People can open it and have a good idea. So
I would have rather not have read this. You could lose some people right here. You know what I'm saying? You almost lost me, to be honest. But we'll keep going. But just because I would have rather just seen the artwork and the storytelling. But I thought I needed to know before I got to the book, so I was like, all right, I'll read it. But turns out, because then you say Ravana over here, and I was like, oh, okay. But I didn't actually know Ravana was until the very end anyway. So because the characters kept saying it. We'll keep going, Adam. We keep going.
Mm-hmm. Keep going.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
So on this page, I like the art. I like the coloring. Both look nice. I'm not a big sound effects guy, but that's a perfectly good sound effect. The complaint that I would have about this one is when you look up in the top, number one, I don't know what order I'm supposed to read these in because of the way they're laid out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Generally, when you're dealing with comics and you're giving kind of like a location caption, you put it up in the top left corner is the first thing people read, so it doesn't interfere with the dialogue, right? With this one, it's down in the middle, kind of blended into the shadows of this particular guy. So I don't know if I'm supposed to read the top 2 balloons first, then this, then that. I'm not sure what the reading order is. You don't want to confuse your audience. So in the first balloon, go up, zoom in on this one right here, Arman. The one at the top. So this may seem like a small complaint, but little things make you seem more professional, right? This tell is pointed the wrong way. The angle of this tell indicates that it's going away from the guy's head, not towards his head. So this actually should have been at a right angle, not a left angle. Which may seem like a little complaint, but little things like that can just really up the game of the way your comic looks.
Yeah, and throw off the rhythm of like the way you're reading it in your head too.
Right. So
I actually didn't even notice the location.
I hadn't thought of that, so I'm going to keep it close in the future.
That's actually a good point because if it was going that way, you could go, oh, this is where you read first. Whereas because it's like weirdly this way, maybe you think this goes first if you read left to right. Adam is a man with a plan of lettering. He is the letterer. You know what I'm saying? Let's keep on going down here. I thought this was a I thought this was an interesting first page. I thought it was a good first page. I just, again, you kind of lost me because when it switches to the second one, I was like, oh, so this isn't the main characters yet again. So we really, so I was like, oh, okay. Again, that may just maybe a personal thing. I don't like when people start with
That's just a you personal thing. You don't need to start with the main
Yeah,
characters. That's
yeah.
not necessary in a story.
Good point. But and then
I want to note that.
I just
Sorry.
who this guy was. But yeah, keep going, Kayla.
Oh, I wanted to like note that I really appreciate the small details that are in this first page, like the engraving on the statue behind him, like the Cygnus statue, and like there's some really great little gadgets and like gadgets that are peppered through these panels that I really enjoyed kind of poking those out because I kind of got lost in like the lettering and the rhythm of that. So I really took more of a I'm exploring this as an artist before I'm actually reading it perspective.
Right. But yeah, and then we go to the second page. But yeah, I just have to.
So
the reason,
pop back up on the top one for one more minute. Let me point out something else on this last panel.
Oh boy, let's go.
Where you put your word balloon tells me that whoever is saying that is close to the reader right now. So you see like this asteroid down at the bottom. The thing that most readers would infer from reading it right there is that whoever is saying that is standing on the rock. If you would put it up above the ship, then they would know that it was someone who was actually in the ship. Little things like that actually make a difference in comics.
Well, I would actually say maybe that's why, because I had to go back because I got lost in the second page. I was like, who's talking now on this first page? So I actually have to go back and reread it. That's kind of why I brought up that point earlier. But yeah, that makes sense now. Maybe it was because what this Adam just said. Maybe I just got lost in this bubble right here. That's interesting.
Well, I really appreciate that. I mean, this is the second book I lettered, so I'll take it.
It looks nice for your second book. I mean, my second book was horrible. So, I mean, like I couldn't figure out how to resize balloons to save my life. Stupid illustrator.
No.
But
I've lettered 4 books now, and it's still just as bad, isn't that right, Adam? It has not gone. If anything,
you're so
it's
horrible.
gone progressively. It's gone the other way. You know what I'm saying?
It's getting worse every time.
So, do you know an episode of reading one of Arman's books?
We did that.
Oh yes.
But
We did it for his covers.
Hard at any point in time.
Mm-hmm.
That's no problem. So go back up to this page for a second, Arman. So with this one, I like the artwork. It looks nice, but the face on the girl who's driving the ship or whatever it is, that looks almost so rotoscoped that it takes me out of the rest of the artwork. I think that one's a little bit too photostat referenced in comparison with the way the artwork looks in the rest of the book.
Yeah.
It doesn't mesh well with the 2 faces that are right below it. So that's a critique I would give to the artist on this one. With the balloons, your balloon shapes aren't bad. Your word grouping's not bad. You're doing cutoffs and the borders that look pretty nice. Your tells are just a little bit too long in every single one of them, though. The tells should be about half the length of what they are. And then overall, the placement is still an issue with each of these. Had you taken the balloon that's up in the top panel and moved it over to the left and then put his down below that a little bit more, had hers a little tighter in, it'd be a little bit more clear to the eye right away who is speaking. And as far as the bottom 2 go, there's plenty of room to put the lettering up in the top. There's no sense in putting it down at the bottom like that because that just makes it harder to read.
There were some, the faces just felt, not over here, it felt a little over exaggerated. And I think it's not on this page, but it didn't, I don't want to say it took me out, but it was like, it kind of made me like what is happening here? I just thought it
happens a couple times through the whole book where I kind of pause and be like, this looks off. This doesn't quite match the rest of the work. Yeah.
Yeah, even here, I think it was like, but it never like stopped too. It was like it kept like I think this was the page. I was like, it was like 1, 2, 3. You know what I'm saying? I was like, oh, okay, interesting. Even like her just talking, I was like, interesting. Let's keep going. We got to get to the end here because I know Adam has a few big things he wants to up his sleeve. You know what I'm saying?
Well, there's one big thing that I'm going to say that I see with every single new writer in comics. I see it with Arman as well, so it's something that both of you could do.
Mhm.
I would really, really recommend both of you take out your notebooks or whatever you write in and try writing a page that has no dialogue. Because this thing is so absolutely cluttered with dialogue. And, you know, it's a complaint I have about Armand's books as well. New writers often seem like they need to prove that they exist in a comic.
Yeah.
In order to accomplish that, they try to put as much dialogue as possible everywhere. Half the dialogue on this page is completely useless. All it does is
really
just
funny.
drag someone out of the story.
My first book I got into production, I did a ton of that, and the illustrator did not get what I was going for with that, and those pages were not good.
Ooh,
And
yikes.
That might be a
very
problem
much
with
fixed
who
with
you're
dialogue.
working
So
with.
I've been
Yeah,
trying to avoid
yeah.
that practice lately, but that's quite a good note.
Yeah, I mean, like when you look at
Like,
this, it's so dialogue dense,
right.
and how much of this dialogue is actually necessary to the story, or even seems to you like what these characters would say. Like, you should have a better feel for these characters than anyone else. And does it seem like if they were put in a scenario that they would just be saying all of this stuff that's completely useless dialogue? And I'm sorry, you know, I know the term useless dialogue, that's kind of a mean thing to say. But honestly, as a reader, that's the way it reads. Is that half of this could have been cut and pared down and edited out.
Oh, if you think that's me, you don't even want to know. And that's like baby level. You know what I'm saying? Adam is putting on the kid gloves for you, Danny. Don't you worry.
I mean, I kind of get it though. To play devil's advocate, like a lot of the dialogue in these pages, specifically these two that we just looked at, I feel like is a lot of Danny trying to put forth the world building efforts that he put into this story.
And I
get that. Yeah, I totally get that.
But there are
But
better ways to build the world than just making everything dialogue dense all the time.
Yeah. I would have loved to have seen more. Rather than dialogue, maybe I would have loved to see some type of like a flashback page or a couple panels that just sort of illustrated some of the world building versus putting it out there in dialogue, and more environmental design as well. I find the environmental design to be pretty like blah in these.
Yeah, this was like a weird joke. I don't know, but I think maybe you're just trying to highlight the name again. But then also surprisingly here, this was like a weird jump when I read this, but it really like that's the first time that I really understood that I really even grasped, or like I really not only understood, but like first contact. It's a long lost Emperor Ivana. It's like right there, and he just kind of like asked it out of nowhere. I think she did. But it turns out that it was him, and I was like, okay. But again, I only knew that by the end, right?
I realized that guy was a statue in the beginning, so I got your foreshadowing there. But it would have been nice to have a little bit more context about why people care who the long lost Emperor Ivana was.
Right.
Because as a reader, I'm reading it and I'm just like, okay, he's long lost Emperor Ivana. What does that mean? How many planets did he rule? Was he a nice guy? Was he a dick? What, you know? There's no real context to make me care that he's a long lost Emperor Ivana. And I don't particularly get that these three soldiers, whatever they are, I don't get that they really care if he's a long lost Emperor Ivana either.
Yeah, like what is their loyalty to that? Or, you know, are they fighting against an emperor? Are they in the midst of some type of like, you know, how would that affect them if this were him?
But also, if it was that easy for them three to find him, I was just like surprised. Like, is he really that long lost? You know what I'm saying?
How lost are you?
So we go down here to the little farm. All right. We're getting some farm action. Got his little robot. I don't know how she was hurt, but then he fixed her. But then she was walking all this way. Nice little odd thing that I saw there. I was like, all right. Adam, did you notice that?
Yeah,
No?
like an inconsistency.
Did I notice what?
Her leg was like damaged, but then she was walking. Nobody was helping her. I thought that was.
Yes. Yeah, I
thought
did
that
notice
was-
that, but I just assumed that the damage wasn't so great that she couldn't walk on her own. You know,
Hmm.
maybe she needed a hand in the terrain or something like that. But that didn't bother me the way that it bothered you. Clearly,
Well, it didn't bother me. Just something. One of the things I noticed. I was like, okay, go. We got somebody else coming. Identify yourself, citizen. All right. We see this.
yeah. See, like this is a good example of useless dialogue. Scroll back up. Scroll back up. So in this panel right here, he's telling them to hurry into the cellar and hide there. But then the guy who I'm assuming is their leader is saying, go, go, go. Why do both of them need to say that? Like one of these word balloons could just go completely. Probably the leader saying, go, go, go.
Right.
But, that's a good example of over dialoguing your comic.
Hmm.
Now I'm trying to think as to how that happened. But that may have just been a script thing.
Lot more dialogue over here.
Well, when you letter, if you're lettering yourself, you've been given a gift because you have the ability to edit yourself one last time before it's all finalized. So if you letter your own work, use that opportunity to go through and be like, is this really what I want to say? Is this really what the characters would sound like? Is this really a necessary word balloon right here? Go ahead.
Okay. It's safe now to come out, but they're ready for action, I'm guessing.
Right.
Okay. We got some more clickety clacks here. Clicks. He's building something. He's building something. They're farming. Okay. And then they come back. But my question was, they were here. Like, why wouldn't they have just like destroyed?
Right. Why did they leave? That was kind of my thing. It's like, well, did they have to like go get a space warrant? Like, it wasn't really clear. Yeah, like why? yeah, like, oh, we don't have any evidence. Like, let's just go back to the headquarters and come back with a space warrant.
He came all this way to their house. You know what I'm saying? Like, he knows. I think there was even a tracker on them. Like, I don't know why he would have went into the house and destroyed them all, burned the house down or something. But yeah, I don't. Adam, did you notice anything about that? Felt any way about?
I thought that was incredibly bizarre pacing. I also thought it was kind of needless pacing, like it was just trying to squeeze a couple more pages out.
Okay. Right.
Maybe it needed to be a certain amount of pages, and that was a way to do gap filler, is the way that felt to me. Because there's not really anything in between these two pages that happens that I would call overly interesting.
Yeah, we're farming. We've like bandaged.
We see a better shot of the farm, but we could have seen that as the ship was flying to begin with.
Yeah, but also, like, how long did this take for the ship to come back in their time? I don't even. What was it, like 20 minutes or an hour? Like, you know what I'm saying? But then they're back, right? So they're back now, and now they're under arrest. Okay, I don't know what that entirely means. Like, they're to scan, but why don't they just scan them before? I don't know. Prepared to die. Okay, interesting. And then they keep bringing up that they're fascists, but I don't actually like. Not only do I like kind of not know what that means, but I don't know what I don't know if saying it makes it true.
Right. Like what entity do these people represent? That's something that I'm pretty unclear about.
Like,
I assume. Right. I assume because we're calling them fascist that they're some type of, kind of like the emperor or like the Republic in Star Wars, but it's not something that's made clear necessarily. And normally, like through visual cues, you can kind of tell that, like normally when you have sort of the bad guys show up, they tend to be like a darker palette or like their costuming is different. But these kind of look like they could totally just be an extension of these soldier characters that we met at the beginning that maybe have just like gone rogue or something.
And also, yeah, just I guess to bring that home, earn your fascism. You know what I'm saying?
Your fascism.
Say fascism.
I don't know what that sentence is supposed to mean.
It means show them doing something brutal.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is, have you ever read Fables?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm not going to spoil who the Emperor is in that. But he's severely bad because you see him crush entire worlds, right?
It is Snow White.
And all these characters that you kind of get a chance to know, both the Bill Willingham versions and, the original, who Snow White is without Bill Willingham, tell you. He's driven them out of their homes, right? There's not enough setup here for the rebellion against this empire. For me personally, to care that this guy once upon a time was the emperor.
Yeah.
Like, he may be the emperor who started this whole thing. He might have been a giant fascist. All those things might be true. But I don't care about him. I don't connect with him. So what does it matter to me? And I don't care about the other three characters. There's been nothing in their personalities that has made me connect with them. So what do I care what their motives are? Like, when it comes down to it, this is a story that I'm going to say takes place far in the future. So it's not even relatable as a time period, or as, this is something happening to Earth, or, you live in Chicago or Toronto and you just saw that get blown up. There's nothing like that. So everything in the story needs to be driven towards making someone connect with these main characters.
Yeah.
Yep. Also, I think he got shot in the head here, and then I was like, okay, he's done, but apparently he wasn't.
You can be brought back from being shot in the head.
Right.
There was some sort of dialogue about him being immortal before this.
Right.
And I caught that, so I just figured it was part of his immortality.
But he said that he's repairable, and that's what kind of threw me off. I was like, all right, well, if he's repairable, then this guy's gonna fix him. Please help secure.
That did kind of make me wonder if he was a cyborg or a robot.
Yes, yeah, I thought the same thing. I was like, oh, maybe he's like a Borg.
At that, there was a bunch of concept work done, and there's a certain point with art where one has to pick one's battles, I suspect. So that did not come across as well as I thought it would have when initially written, unfortunately.
Also, so interesting is I can cover you, but I see there's 10 against 1, and I was just like in terms of a firefight, I was like, they're simply finished. You know what I'm saying? Wouldn't you just surrender at this point, Adam? You know what I'm saying?
No.
Adam's like, absolutely not. Adam can take 10.
Yes, I can.
I don't doubt it. Adam's told me some stories.
Well, you're not the hero in an actual story. You just have surrendered.
No, you don't surrender, Arman. That's something you would do. So, up until now, the sound effects, even though I'm not a sound effect guy, when I'm reading comics, they've been good. The placement has been good. But this room right here, that's just, no. That's a big old no on that one.
Yeah.
Got it.
That's a sad sound effect.
I also didn't know who this guy was. This isn't getting with the character design thing, because I couldn't tell them apart from the good guys and bad guys.
Yeah.
When this guy was speaking, I was like, "Who's this guy?" And he was wearing he only had a beard, really. But yeah, so I couldn't understand what kind of the flow, who was talking.
Yeah, there's really not enough signifiers between the good guys and the bad guys.
The only one I kind of recognize, to be honest.
Well, because his color is different.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, but his costuming is still basically the same as everyone else's.
But yeah, we got some coom going on. Okay.
So then when I was reading this, I was just like, where the hell did this come from?
This is your Transformer.
There was, I see Gundam. I don't see Transformer there. But
it's a generation.
It just seemed like it came completely out of nowhere. And it's like, okay, so
100%.
There's no problem whatsoever in this story. It's just a one-shot it can end now, because now we know that the Emperor is just going to be able to bring a grand mech to life and just crush anything that comes to the planet. So they can just live there and live happily ever after forever.
Mhm.
In fact, they could just bring all the people that the Empire has repressed to this planet because that mech can just smack down anything. We've already seen
Mhm.
that. So now
Mhm.
it's a problem where there's something created in the first issue that's so grandiose that apparently can be controlled by the Emperor, or at least the way that it looks in this little insert panel, which I do really like that insert panel, by the way.
I do too.
Uh,
I love that.
But it's kind of a problem with the storytelling because you've just rushed so far to the finish line that as a reader, it doesn't really make me hungry to see what happens next.
Mhm.
It kind of feels like the outcome is just already known. You know what I'm saying at all? I've just seen
Sure. I
that
mean,
the
I
Emperor has
made a
superior
good case for
technology.
your argument. I can't disagree with it.
Can we maybe also say, earn your transformer, because it felt like he came out of nowhere and he kind of like saved the day in a way, but it was like a thing
This is
where
gonna
now
be Arman's catchphrase for this episode: is earn your things.
That's right. That's right.
Earn your
Really.
things.
But one of the things is like, it came out of nowhere to save the day, and then it kind of feels not only unearned, but it kind of feels like the reader's like, where did this come from? It feels cheated. You know what I'm saying? Like a cheat code.
I mean, there
I don't
are
know. I liked it.
the environment design throughout all of that.
One of and this goes back to that last problem I had with the character designs. I have to reread. I have to go back at the end because I thought this was the bad guys' robot, and then like because his
See,
design.
I didn't think that, but I thought the Emperor had went bad.
Okay.
He was a bad guy, and I thought it was
interesting.
like this whole thing where he's going to smack down the little rebel guys.
Mhm.
Because the dialogue right here,
Yeah, the dialogue here.
keys of order. I'm like, okay, but empires are most commonly representatives of order, right? And rebels are chaos. So if this is a rebel force, he's about to kill them. That's what I thought was going to happen. So I was surprised when he laid the smackdown on the next page to the Emperor or to the Empire.
Thugs, you have no place. I'm like, yeah. How does he know who's thugs? Yeah.
Well, and I think too, at some point, these guys, our antagonists, are referred to as the protectors, which I think is confusing to me.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. Protectors, but they're considered fascists. Interesting.
Right. So it made it really difficult for me to understand like what the sides are, like, or is this some kind of like morally gray character arc where we have like factions splitting off? It was really confusing language wise, which is why like when I saw our transformer coming up from the ground, I thought that yes, the Emperor had like built this thing, but then I started thinking like, oh, maybe the guys that we thought were the good guys are actually not the good guys, and the protectors are coming in to try and like eradicate them. But the way that it's written, it's like written from the
fun side story.
bad guy's point of view.
So scroll down for a second. I'm going to show you one more example of where the dialogue should have just gone away completely, right? So in this panel, you see this guy grabbing onto the sides, right?
Yeah, I know.
Oh, yeah.
Scroll down for a second, Armand. Scroll down. Okay. So now we see, scroll down all the way, you dingus. So now we see the robot just punch this ship, right? So scroll back up. Scroll back up. No, upwards. There you go. So what looked cooler in this panel is if he weren't saying anything at all and there was a big robot hand about to come and smack his ass while he's hanging out the side of that. That would have been visually more stimulating, and it wouldn't have made anyone read this, quite frankly, completely useless dialogue right here.
Also, nobody, I don't know who he was responding to. That's what I was confused. Like, this guy didn't ask him, "Are you okay?" He just says, "I'm fine," and I was like, "Okay." I don't know if that was just me. I was like, "What?" But
I figured it was because that guy was reaching for him. And
right,
he was like,
right.
No, I'm too proud to be brought in on
I'm
my
good.
own.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, one thing I noticed was like, did they even need to call this big robot? If this droid was apparently handling it all by himself, he was like destroying everybody. So why did he play his big hand to show this other one that but I don't know. So then we got this big guy here who punches it out of this guy. And I was like, okay. And then did he just avoid each other?
I love that little sequence. That's like a really, really great series of panels.
And then the thought of their continued rule disgusts me. I say it's high time someone returns order, but I mean, like, he was here the entire time. Like, what changed his mind? Because will you join me? Will you join me? Well,
it would have been nice if we had seen something that actually brought this change about. Like if they had murdered his robot best friend or something like that.
Right.
But then this is the moment where I thought, oh, so that's the main character. So, that was like, oh, that's how you introduce the main character at the last. Because it says, will you join me? And then these guys are just like, oh, whatever. To be continued.
So just go up really quick there for a second. Are you using Illustrator to do this, or are you using a program like Comic Light?
For the lettering?
Yeah.
I'm using Illustrator.
Okay. Yeah. The reason I asked is because the shape and everything of this balloon looks so remarkably similar to the top that I thought maybe it was preloaded balloons. But I actually do like the space around the "Will You Join Me?" And the balloon on that is actually one of the better in the whole issue. So I do really like the lettering you did right there. You go ahead, scroll down. I'm just going to be honest about the rest with the bios and everything. I didn't read any of that.
I didn't expect. Yeah, I needed space. I had concept art. So I decided to put everything to good use and do more world building.
Right. Yeah, and I can get that. I did scroll down through it. I just didn't take the time to read any of it. But to be fair, I usually don't read that kind of stuff in comics.
See, I like that stuff. That stuff is like the goods for me. I like to see that, like the Penny Dreadful comics. They always have something kind of like this, and they have like a whole bunch of alternative covers and behind the scenes from like the creators. Like I love those kind of extras at the back of my comics.
Yeah, I'm weird. If I'm going to read extras,
I write
it's
a
going
lot
to
of
be
it.
from Comics Journal or something like that. That's why I want to get my extras. I don't want to get them as a part of the comic.
In the book. Okay. No, I like it. It's like a nice little treat at the end for me.
Kill, do you get closer to the camera?
I am not entirely sure what happened. I think my husband kept trying to call, so I kept trying to decline his call, and I think it kept zooming me in camera-wise. So I'm trying to back away.
Makes sense. Any other critiques about the plot or anything to kind of help our new friend here, Danny?
I think it's got some potential and some promise. I'm not a sci-fi guy. I should have prefaced the whole thing by stating that, because there might be some tropes you're playing off.
Prejudice.
That maybe just aren't my thing, right?
Yeah.
But overall, I think that where did that go? There we go. I think that the pacing and the lettering, the dialogue, there's a lot of work that you could do just having it revised, trimmed down, kind of redo a few things. Because really and truly, this should have been like your 4th issue, not your 1st issue. And then everything wouldn't have been so condensed into just make it as wordy as possible to try and explain every single thing in my head. Does that make sense?
That was not what I was going for. And certainly the explanations that you are requesting, I mean, some of them show up.
I'm not requesting an explanation. I'm giving a suggestion that as a reader, someone who reads comics every single day, you wouldn't have a shot at getting me to return for a 2nd issue the way it currently stands. Because it's just all so boom, 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 boom. Then this happens, and there's a giant Gundam. But then there's some dialogue, and some of the dialogue kind of fills me in on what's going on, but some of it doesn't. But the one thing the dialogue sure doesn't do is ever make me connect with the characters whatsoever, or make me believe they're real people whatsoever. You get what I'm saying?
All right.
and that starts. I mean, for me, they didn't feel like real people because for me, their character design. I had to keep rereading the pages to understand whose side was on who.
Yeah.
Caleb brought up a good point about the protectors that I didn't realize, but maybe I subconsciously realized, and I was like, "What's happening here?" Yeah, a lot of times I couldn't even understand. I couldn't find those three in the fight, but it turns out they weren't even the main characters anyway. So yeah, overall, I would
Well,
say
hold on. You keep saying that. Let's let Danny talk about that for a second.
Oh yeah.
So I got that
They're
those
not
4
main
were
characters,
supposed to be the main
They are
characters.
main characters. Like, they stick around. They're the point of view characters. But yeah, the writing, the exercise this was trying to do was, I mean, can I pull off a villain protagonist? Can I, apparently not effectively, but I'm working on it, like, get banter reasonably well organized, have characters come across with a lot more charm than apparently they evidently did. But it is what it is. And these people end up sort of focusing the overall story arc a little bit more down the line. Like, I wrote to their struggle that we're bringing this new sort of powerful character into, and that's the arc, is bringing in this overwhelming force.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask you something, Danny?
Sure.
How long ago did you write this?
Oh God. This was.
Is that your thinking face?
No, it was like.
It is.
This was like, I wrote this after I was doing promo rounds for the Myth Butcher.
Okay.
So, and before the summer.
Yeah.
So spring was out last year. I think that was 2021.
Last year. Because I was going to say, I don't know if you guys have read The Myth Butcher, but it's a very different story from this. And like that was how Danny and I were introduced to each other, was through The Myth Butcher. And I love that comic. Like there's so much like charm and like he hits these really great funny beats like all the way through, and it's a really good story that I'm excited that I think you said you're continuing, right?
I'm halfway through having another issue's worth of shorts together.
Yeah. That's why like I couldn't figure out, because like based off of what I've read recently, like
You're
the stories that
breaking your audio, Kayla.
Oh, is my audio bad? Am I still breaking really bad?
But I will critique Danny's choice of comic for us to critique here. Why don't you give us this Myth Butcher that Kayla likes so much? You know what I'm saying?
It's older. It's basically a one-shot book.
Yeah.
This is a story I'm actually in the process of wrapping. Like, I just went to print with issue 2 last week Friday. So and issue 3 is already being drawn. Like, issue 4 we're getting introduction now. So can I make the story better? Is there something interesting going on I could do better? Like, this is an ongoing concern that would actually benefit from the feedback. Like, my other long project, my graphic novel thing, there's a lot of and so, like, that's sort of
the dogs don't like Cygnus Imperium.
Are we just distracted by dogs?
A little bit.
So like that's a long thing. It's a third of the way done, or about halfway done now. But like, I'm happy with how it's scripted, and I'm only doing it because I know, like, doing it the way I'm doing it now, because I know I'm going to stick the landing there. This was like sort of started off as a lark, and I just sort of kept doing it. But that also means that there's more for me to learn, because I don't do a lot of genre stuff.
I will also say that I am Elixir got released, and I am in the process, Adam knows, of relettering it, editing it again after a bunch of editors came in. So you can technically redo things. It's not like it's a lost cause if you really wanted to revise, reprint, all that fun stuff, make it better, because you do have it. It's already done.
Exactly.
So yeah, so I hope it was helpful for you today, Danny. I don't know if I saw a little bit of tears there.
Not at all. I'm really sorry, man. Yeah.
I think it was behind your glasses, shielding
no,
you. You know,
do harder
what
next time.
I'm saying? Holding it in. But I did see you tried to fight back, and we do appreciate that. We do appreciate that, but maybe less so next time.
Sure. There are things I thought came off. There are things that were certainly an interesting challenge on the production side that I know I wrote in and didn't come out very well. These things happen.
Right.
Some of them are things that you even noticed. Some of them are things that you didn't.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'm actually really curious, like as an artist that's worked with you before, how your like art direction process went with the guy that you were working on with this, and if there was some like miscommunications that were happening, because I know your scripts and like I know how you write, and I feel like some of the things that you were probably trying to convey via your script may have been lost in the actual illustrations versus the script writing, if that makes sense.
These things happen when you're working with teams, right? Like it's one of the things I love about comics is there's this interplay between the artist and the writer and the colorist and even the letterer and getting the thing done with the right style and tone and the right amount of detail. And there's a certain point where you got to pick your battles, and that goes just as well with bigger projects too, right? An artist can actually hold up a book, and eventually you just have to go to print. You're stuck with what you got, and I've seen that situation before too.
Danny, before we go, can you tell us one thing that you think Adam Watson missed? This man right here. Tell us one thing you think he missed.
Or just didn't say.
I mean,
yeah, I was about to say.
Well, I don't know what he likes or like what he cares about. Like he can pay attention to anything he wants. Like an obvious flaw that he missed.
Yeah, please.
I mean, given that you guys drew attention to some obvious flaws that I missed, and okay, well, here's one. And this has been fixed in future art direction. There, a bunch of the world building dialogue in the planetary traveling scenes sort of reads as a bit of a mess, especially on the lettering side, because the characters are in the wrong order. And then I very successfully afterwards trained my illustrator to stack the characters left to right and to give headroom for dialogue and to actually put it in the thumbs. So that's a thing.
That actually points to a problem that I'm saying. If the reader doesn't know the voice of characters and they don't even know that a dialogue balloon that went to this character should have went to a different character.
No, sorry,
that's a problem.
That just like the tails and the way the balloons are stacked sort of are forced that way because the character in the illustration was not the way it probably should have been. So that forced me to have so it's not. This isn't the case like on page 1 where everything was. I mean, it's sort of the case on page 1 too, where everything is sort of really far away because that could have just been framed better for dialogue if that had been the case. But it gets pretty tight on like after the first spread for a little bit of that exposition, and that ended up, I think, being the case due to an art direction problem. But still working with the guy, and now that's not a problem. But you guys didn't draw attention to it, so that's the thing that you missed, I guess.
All right. Well,
I don't know if that counts, but
that Adam catches everything, and he definitely. Adam, didn't you say you actually I don't know if you told me that you're OCD or something close to it.
I do have obsessive compulsive disorder. Yes.
So he is a true man that really, what I'm saying?
Why is he missing so many things then?
That's all.
I can send you the itemized list I made while I was writing it. If you
No, it's cool. As Kayla knows, I give notes in itemized list, and then I actually just use them to check off if the notes have been picked. Yes. Then I decide to pick my battles sometimes.
Yes.
But there are lists, and I expect the lists to be done.
Yes.
And I just want to know. I just want to let you know, Danny, that that everything that you're going through, I went through numerous times with this man, Adam Watson, up top. So I know how you feel, and it's okay if you shed a tear as soon as we get off the
I'm
stream.
really happy.
Just,
You guys,
just a little
okay.
one. Just
Yeah.
a
you guys
little
read my
one.
book, and you don't hate me enough to not talk to me. So I clearly did something right.
And if so just
Do
so
you
know
feel
that,
like you got anything out of this, Danny?
Yeah, quite a lot actually.
Good.
That's the most important thing to me.
Yeah.
There's a lot, like in addition to the genuinely, I really am not good at directing covers, so I got a lot of good notes there. I mean, I think my lettering has improved since this largely, so eventually I'll touch it up, I'm sure. I've got justification to being way firmer on concepts and designs. And I'm actually not really great at editing color because I'm definitely not a color person. And I've gotten some really, really good notes on how to do that in a way that's going to be really effective for future storytelling.
well, it was a pleasure having you on. Let's thank Kayla for setting it up. Good old Kayla Rainey down here.
So Kayla.
And I always like to end these streams with one word, and that one word is gonna be to Danny in a second. But yeah, like and subscribe. And for anybody, we're gonna do this once a month. We'll make somebody else cry once a month, and it's gonna be it's always a good time in the treehouse. Now that I said that Danny's gonna end it with one word, it's supposed to catch people off guard. So now it has to be Adam Watson. End us off in one word.
No.